You might think you know what it takes to be a professional wrestler. Toughness, skill, and the ability to take a hit. But sometimes the audience only sees the performance, not the danger lurking behind the curtain. There are moments in wrestling history where someone stepping into the ring wasn't just brave, it was borderline reckless. Matches where the choice to compete put careers, health, and sometimes lives on the line. Today, we're diving into 12 times a wrestler probably shouldn't have been allowed to perform, and why the decisions made in those moments still leave fans shaking their heads decades later. Stick around, because by the end, you'll see just how far some of these athletes went for the sake of the show. Let's start with one of the most tragic examples, Bret Hart. Hart will openly tell anyone who asks that his career took a critical hit during the Starrcade 1999 WCW main event against Bill Goldberg. A misfired thrust kick by Goldberg connected in the worst possible way, sending Bret into a concussion nightmare. Estimates suggest he suffered 3 additional head injuries during the same match. The chaos left the audience confused, the championship unresolved, and Bret's body battered. You would think that was the end of it, that the man known as the Hitman would be taken out of action immediately to recover properly. But wrestling rarely works like logic dictates. Less than 24 hours later, Hart was back in the ring on Nitro, facing Goldberg once more for the WCW Championship, a title that had just been declared vacant because of the prior night's chaos. Imagine stepping back into the ring dazed, disoriented, and in pain, only to confront the very opponent who had caused your first major injury. It wasn't bravery at that point. It was a decision that nearly defies rational explanation. That second match likely exacerbated the damage, pushing Bret deeper into the post-concussion spiral that would eventually end his career. Even after that, he fought through 8 more matches, including a hardcore bout with Terry Funk, before finally confronting the harsh reality. It had to stop. Next, we turn to Bubba Ray Dudley at TLC 4 in 2002. Modern WWE has gotten much better about head trauma, pulling wrestlers immediately if there are any signs of serious injury. But back then, the precautions were minimal, and Bubba's near disaster is hard to watch. Chris Jericho's ladder bulldog left Bubba completely disoriented, his eyes glazed, his sense of direction gone. In a match involving ladders, tables, and chairs, one misstep could have ended in catastrophe. The only thing that saved him was Jericho's awareness and in-the-moment guidance, essentially coaching Bubba through each beat to avoid serious harm. If it had been today, Dudley would have been pulled instantly, as he should have been back then. Then there's Eddie Guerrero at Judgment Day 2004. Facing JBL for the WWE Championship, Eddie was in a match that needed to convince fans of JBL's threat, and he delivered until it went off the rails. A chair shot to the head, intended for show, inadvertently severed a blood vessel. Eddie began bleeding uncontrollably, and for a few tense minutes, the match teetered on the edge of real danger. Despite the injury, he continued, guiding JBL and keeping the performance flowing, but his movements became heavy, his eyes distant, and the crowd felt the unease. Eventually, the champion collapsed, required stitches, fluids, and a week off to recover. That night, the match should have been stopped the instant things went beyond control. Kurt Angle is up next, and his story is a testament to how far the desire to perform can push someone. WrestleMania 19, his clash with Brock Lesnar, was iconic, but Angle stepped into that ring with a neck injury so severe WWE nearly pulled him entirely. They even prepped Chris Benoit as a backup plan, and Angle wrestled on SmackDown to ensure story continuity. The man simply refused to be stopped. Pain was constant in every hold and slam, yet he helped Lesnar deliver a show-stopping match. Angle's heroics, however, came at a cost, months off afterward for experimental neck surgery. The match was brilliant, yes, but no match is worth putting your long-term health on the line like that. Then there's Mr. Perfect, aka Curt Hennig, facing Bret Hart at SummerSlam 1991. Known for technical mastery, Hennig performed at the top of his craft despite a severe back injury that threatened his career. Every maneuver, every rise from the mat carried immense risk. The famous Perfectplex, his signature move, became a high-stakes gamble on his own well-being. When the bell rang and the championship changed hands, Hennig had done more than lose a match. He had sacrificed part of his health, stepping away to recover and facing a near-retirement scenario. Matches like this remind us that wrestling excellence often comes at a hidden, sometimes terrifying cost. The Undertaker has endured nearly every type of punishment imaginable over decades, but his Elimination Chamber appearance in 2010 is a stark reminder that accidents don't wait for safety checks. Before the match even began, pyrotechnics sent flames into his chest and neck. Immediate burns and intense pain were the start of an ordeal, as he had to endure the sealed glass pods of the chamber, essentially an oven, for over an hour before performing. The doctors cleared him, but surviving burns and then competing in one of the most physically demanding environments imaginable is nothing short of staggering. It's proof that sometimes storyline ambition trumps basic human safety. Angle appears again, this time at SummerSlam 2000, showing just how unforgiving wrestling can be. During the opening chaos, he was thrown onto a table that shattered prematurely, giving him a concussion-like impact. Instead of pulling him, the storyline pressed on. When Angle returned later, his balance was off, his reactions slowed. The storyline could have easily been adjusted without risking his health, but instead, he carried on, demonstrating that raw courage sometimes gets mistaken for necessity, even when it shouldn't. Jeff Hardy at TNA Victory Road 2011 offers another heartbreaking example. Expected to deliver a high-profile match against Sting, Jeff entered the ring visibly impaired from personal issues. His movements were delayed, his eyes vacant, and his body seemed disconnected from his mind. The match had to be improvised, ending abruptly in just 88 seconds, a shocking spectacle that left the audience stunned. This could have been avoided with proper intervention backstage. Hardy never should have been allowed to perform in that condition. It was a dark day for the man and the sport, and a sobering reminder of wrestling's real-life consequences. Mankind takes a place on this list for his legendary and frankly terrifying King of the Ring 1998 performance against Undertaker inside Hell in a Cell. Foley's willingness to take risks was unparalleled, but there are moments where no one should be allowed to continue. After falling from over 20 feet onto the announcer's table, Mankind lay motionless, the arena holding its collective breath. And yet he got back up, not just to continue, but to repeat the extreme danger, ultimately crashing through the top of the cage and enduring thumbtacks before a final pinfall. Foley admitted later he barely remembered parts of the match, illustrating just how much human limits were pushed. Matt Hardy at AEW All Out 2020 provides a modern cautionary tale.
During a Broken Rules match against Sammy Guevara, Hardy was thrown from a height through a table, but instead of landing safely, his head struck the concrete floor. For a moment, everything changed. Hardy looked dazed, his movements slowed, his eyes seemed unfocused, almost distant. It was obvious to anyone watching that something wasn't right. This wasn't part of the performance anymore. This was real danger. And yet, the match continued. Despite the visible signs of a serious head injury, both wrestlers climbed back up to continue the planned finish. From a viewer's perspective, it felt uncomfortable, even alarming. Hardy should have been removed immediately. No storyline, no dramatic moment, no crowd reaction is worth that kind of risk. It was a decision that blurred the line between entertainment and responsibility. Big Van Vader presents perhaps one of the most unbelievable moments in wrestling history. In Japan, back in 1990, during a match with Stan Hansen, a simple mistake turned into something almost surreal. A mistimed strike landed directly in Vader's face. The result? His eye was dislodged from its socket. For most people, that would mean instant panic, immediate medical attention, and the end of everything. But Vader's reaction was something out of a movie. Calmly, almost unbelievably, he pushed his eye back into place and kept wrestling. No pause, no breakdown, no stopping the match. To some, it might look like toughness, but in reality, it shows just how far the industry sometimes pushes the idea of endurance. This wasn't bravery, it was risk taken to an extreme level, where the human body was pushed beyond what should ever be expected. Then there's Shane McMahon at King of the Ring 2001, facing Kurt Angle in a brutal street fight. The plan seemed simple on paper. Shane would be thrown through a glass panel made of sugar glass, a material designed to shatter safely. It's a common trick in wrestling and film, meant to look dangerous while minimizing harm. But something went wrong. Instead of sugar glass, real plexiglass was used. When Shane hit it, It didn't break the way it was supposed to. The impact was heavy, jarring, and immediately looked painful. You could feel the tension in the arena shift. This wasn't going as planned. Even Vince McMahon, watching from ringside, couldn't hide his reaction. Shock, concern, it was all over his face. Shane should have been pulled from the match right then and there, but instead, the match continued. What followed wasn't just performance, it was sheer willpower carrying someone through real injury. It worked out in the end, but it easily could have gone the other way. These moments are powerful reminders of just how thin the line is between showmanship and real danger in professional wrestling. What fans see as entertainment often hides very real risks behind the scenes. From concussions and serious injuries to miscalculated stunts and unexpected accidents, each of these situations shows how quickly things can spiral out of control. Wrestling is built on drama, intensity, and spectacle, but sometimes the cost of that spectacle becomes dangerously real. But there are moments when stopping is the stronger, smarter choice, when safety should matter more than the show. Because at the end of the day, no moment, no matter how iconic, is worth someone's long-term health. Which of these moments shocked you the most? Have you ever watched a match and thought, this should have been stopped right now? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more stories from wrestling history that go beyond the highlights and show you what really happens behind the scenes, make sure to like and subscribe to Wrestling Sphere. Because sometimes the real stories are far more intense than anything scripted.